like the stars in outer space. Something about you radiates. It feels so nice and it feels so nice, yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Starlit Success Podcast. I am your host, Jessica Gaines. And you might have been wondering when you looked at this episode title, what the hell is she talking about? There's no such thing as a successful quitter. You can't be successful if you quit, right? That's what a lot of us have been conditioned to believe. But I beg to differ. What do you think of when you think of a quitter? I know I had my own ideas of what that meant. So I'm like, I'm going to ask my kid. I'm going to ask my 12-year-old, what comes to mind? Like, what do you think of when I say he's a quitter or she's a quitter? What is the first thought that comes to you? And his answer was, he's a baby. And I was like, yeah, I guess. Like, when you think of a quitter, you tend to think they're weak or they're lazy or maybe they're not determined. We've always been taught not to be a quitter. Quitting tends to have like this negative connotation attached to us, this negative vibe attached to it. I think a lot of us tend to think that if someone is a quitter, it means that they gave up or they failed. It could mean a lot of things, but usually it's something negative. But I have a completely different perspective on quitting now that I've learned a lot over the years. I fell into these traps years ago, but I'm like, no, I have a whole different perspective on this now. You know, I used to associate myself with that character flaw, with quitting a bunch of things. But now, I think, what if quitting was actually just proof that you have absolute clarity? What if it means that you're listening to yourself, that you know yourself better than anyone else does, and you know that whatever this thing is that you're contemplating quitting, you know it's not for you? To me, quitting something means you are not going to continue doing things or following through with things that are not true to you, that you're not in alignment with, that don't support your goals, don't support your values, or whatever it is important to you. As I've mentioned before, you know yourself better than anyone else, so you're going to know whether or not something is meant for you. And what I've observed firsthand is when you know what you don't want, when you're clear on what you don't want, all that does is it moves you closer to what you do want. And think about it this way. What if as soon as you stopped forcing all of the things that aren't meant for you, that is exactly when things start to align for you. When you start to get clear on this thing doesn't feel good, this thing doesn't feel right, this isn't aligned with me, I hate it, I dread it, whatever it is, whatever that feeling is, the more you start to pay attention to it and honor that, the quicker you move closer to the things that you do want. So today I want to talk about why it's not only okay to quit, it could be one of the best decisions you actually make. Or maybe it's one of many decisions you make. Maybe you quit multiple things. And this might be a decision that you have to make more than once. This isn't just like a one and done thing. Typically throughout your life, there are multiple situations that you're in where you have to decide whether you're going to move forward with it or not. Like, is this worth continuing? Is this worth my time, my energy, my attention, my resources, whatever it is? You're going to have to decide if it's worth going through with it. So it might not just be this one thing that you're making a decision on. This is something that you'll have to consider throughout your life. So I want you to consider me. I'm going to be your quitting cheerleader. I am here to say, you know what? Quit that thing, move on. It's not working out. It's not worth your time or your energy. Just keep it moving. And I've wondered, why does quitting have to be such a bad thing? Why do, when we think about quitting something, that it's immediately like this negative thought? And I believe it's because most children are conditioned to believe that quitting is a bad thing. We're taught quitting means maybe you can't handle the pressure, or maybe you're not strong enough, or you're not determined enough. Maybe we make the assumption that if you quit something or someone quit something, that they just weren't committed. But I also feel like quitting sounds like it's like this abrupt ending. When we would play Monopoly as a family when I was young, my brother always cheated. I know you cheated. If you're listening to this, you were cheating. And I would get so mad. I would just want to quit. I'm done. It's like an abrupt ending. You didn't finish the game because dude's cheating. There's no chance of me winning. I'm done. I'm out of here. And it sounds bad because we're always taught to finish whatever it is you start. But in my mind, when I talk about quitting, I'm not necessarily saying like just end whatever it is immediately. Like the first second that you feel like something is off, just quit it. I'm not saying that. Quitting to me feels like you just don't pursue something that you know that isn't meant for you. You decide not to continue with it. Maybe if it's like a lesson or something, maybe you finish the lesson. Maybe you finish whatever it is you started for that short-term period. Maybe you complete that, but maybe you just don't move on with it. And there are some things that you might have to quit like abruptly. You just have to cut it off because it's not meant for you. So there's like this gray area. There's like this fine line, and it all depends, and we'll get into that in a little bit, how you can decide whether or not it's worth quitting. And I used to think that too. I used to think like if you start something, you need to finish it. Because when I was a kid and I wanted to quit something, my mom was always in full support of me. She was like, you don't want to do it anymore, you can quit. But I've had mixed feelings on this as an adult. Like sometimes I'm like, why did you just let me quit everything without finishing it? But then sometimes I'm like, no, I'm glad she did that because we didn't waste anyone's time. I knew it wasn't for me, and she trusted my judgment. And of course, that I know myself the best. So why continue? But from what I've observed, a lot of people tend to think that they need to finish what they start because there's this belief that there's this sunk cost, and not just from like a financial perspective, but there's time involved. There's money, there's energy, there's resources, whatever it is that you put into this thing. People believe that it's like, well, if I already spent all this time or all this money, we have to finish it now, because otherwise we're just going to lose everything that we already put into it. I don't believe that anymore. I believe that there are some things that you should just stick through, but it depends on what it is. It depends on how that aligns for you. But if you're just saying, oh, I spent some time and money on it and I don't want to waste it, but I hate this thing, then it's probably time to just be done. So I'm going to use a couple kind of minor examples, but they're kind of funny. Okay, where are my Costco shoppers at? How many times have you bought something from Costco because you thought you were going to like it, or maybe you thought you would eat it all or whatever it is? So I bought this giant bag of pickle chips because I love pickles and I love chips, and I actually make a really amazing pickle dip. So I bought this bag of pickle chips thinking they were going to be so good, right? I don't know how much it was, but it was like a decent sized bag. And I bring it home and I open it, I'm trying them, and I'm like, oh, I like really don't like these. So I'm like, I'm just going to keep them because maybe someone else will like them, or maybe I'll use them for something else, right? So I have them, and then I have my son try them. He doesn't like them, and they just end up sitting in my pantry. I'm about to toss them now that I'm saying this out loud. They're still in my pantry. I'm like, why am I holding on to them? Because you know what? I don't want to feel like I wasted it. But what if I was like, I don't want to feel like I wasted my money, so I'm going to just eat them anyway. I'm just going to choke them down, even though maybe they make me gag. Why would I do that? Why would I torture myself? Okay, just chalk it up. Whatever I spent on it, just be done. It's not going to bring you any joy. It's not going to help you in any way. Just throw them out. Or it's like buying a pair of shoes. Let's say you buy a pair of shoes online and they're super trendy and you thought you were going to love them. They arrive and they're way too small for you. But maybe you spent a decent amount of money, but there's no way that you can return them now. Whatever website you went on to return them, they have some ridiculous return policy, or they're going to charge you an arm and a leg to return them. And you're like, it's just not worth my time or my energy. So you keep them. And you're like, I'm going to still wear them because I love them and I want to look really cool to everyone else, because me wearing these shoes is going to give me some kind of like status symbol or whatever it is. So you keep wearing them because you already spent the money. You don't want to return them. You don't want to waste it, but you get blisters. So now you're wearing these shoes, you're getting blisters. Now you're limping because the blisters are ridiculous. Now it hurts to walk. And now it hurts so much to walk that maybe you just stop walking. Or maybe you're walking, but you are miserable. Like, why? Just give them away or sell them to someone else. Just be done with them already. That is what it looks like if you continue with something that is not meant for you, that you know you should quit, but you don't. Stop torturing yourself. Just be done. But we tend to think if we quit something that there's something wrong with us, like we're not good enough. But really, all that is it's just feedback or redirection. Maybe we start labeling ourselves. Maybe we start telling ourselves, we don't ever follow through with anything. I never follow through with anything. I personally thought I was flawed. Like, I quit so many things that I started to think like, maybe I'm just not cut out to finish things that I start. Maybe that's just not who I am. But I think a lot of the times we think that we have to continue with something, or we think that we have to finish something for someone else's gain. But oftentimes we're trying to prove our sense of worth or like some sense of accomplishment outside of ourselves. It could also be internally. It could be for our own self. It could be for our ego, which isn't always the best way to go about things. But sometimes we're just afraid of how we'll look if we give up on something. Like, we don't want to look bad. We don't want to look like a quitter. We care about our reputation. We don't want to be judged. We don't want to disappoint others, and we don't want to disappoint ourselves. So you don't want to be associated with that quitter label. You don't want to identify with that. Or maybe you don't want to quit something because it's too scary. Maybe whatever it is that you're considering quitting, the thought of quitting it and doing something different is way too far out of your comfort zone. Like, the pain that you're feeling right now is at least familiar and you know what you're getting. So you rather just stay, not quit, because you don't know what that would look like after. And oftentimes, from what I've observed with myself and with other people, maybe you're afraid to trust yourself. Maybe you're making this decision out of fear. It's not always a good idea to make decisions out of fear, because that is one of the lowest vibrations that you can be in. And oftentimes, when you make decisions out of fear, that has a tendency to lead to negative outcomes. Really, you have to trust yourself. And you can't anticipate the worst all the time when making these decisions. Think about, what if it works out better than I expected? What if when I quit this thing, it leads me to a better, more prosperous path? What if when I quit this thing, everything starts to fall into place, rather than if I quit this thing, everything's going to fall apart? Think about the positives that could happen if you quit this thing, because you have to make space for whatever it is that you want to call in. If you keep this thing that you're not quitting around, then you're not leaving room for something better to come in. So we tend to force things or push through when we know we're out of alignment, no matter how hard it is. So you're suffering eating that nasty Costco food, or you're limping around in these shoes that are way too small with blisters on your feet. For whatever reason, no matter how much you hate it, no matter how much it affects your mental or physical health or stress levels, whatever it is, no matter how painful or out of balance you are, you continue with this thing because you don't want to be a quitter. You don't want to have that stigma associated. But what have I said about ignoring those negative emotions? You're feeling this way. You're feeling like you want to quit something because it's not where you're supposed to be. Because if it was where you were supposed to be, it would feel comfortable. The universe makes you uncomfortable in situations when it wants you to move. You're not going to move from something if it's super comfortable. You're never going to leave. So it's like, no, I'm going to make you as uncomfortable as possible so you get the hell out of there. So listen to that. Now, if your GPS sees that you're on the wrong path and it's trying to reroute you, right? The GPS is like, no, this road is closed. Don't go over here. So that's your negative emotion. So this goes back to ignoring those negative emotions, ignoring your internal GPS when it's trying to tell you that you're on the wrong path. So you have all of these negative feelings about whatever this thing is that you're considering quitting. The GPS is like, road closed. That's your negative emotion. Like, turn around, go a different way. But you're like, no, I'm going to plow through anyway, even though the GPS is rerouting me. It's telling me this road is closed. Nope. I'm going to just keep going. I'm going to just ignore it. Because I don't want to be a quitter. I want to just keep going. So now you're on this road that's full of boulders and potholes and whatever else, and you're ruining your car and you're like, what the hell am I doing? Why did I go this way? Why did I ignore my GPS? It knew where to go. And I'm just like, no, I know better because I don't want to be a quitter. It said to take this route. I got to take this route. When you could have just listened to your GPS and took a different way. It's not saying give up on the destination. It's saying this is not the way. You can still get there, but this isn't the road that you can take. You just got to find a different road. And I'm not saying just quit everything that's hard. That is not what I'm saying. Because sticking with something and persevering is super powerful. What I am saying is stick with things and push through with things that you feel in alignment with. Because if you stick with the wrong things, and when I say wrong, this is going to be something that you have to determine. No one else can really tell you whether or not it's right or wrong for you. That's something that you just have to feel. That's where your intuition really plays a part. But if you're sticking with the wrong things and deep down, it's the wrong thing, that is where it's toxic. When you're not in alignment with something, and when I say deep down, maybe you've lost interest in it. Maybe it's something that just completely goes against your values. I'm not saying quit something just because it's hard, because what I'm doing here, there's a lot of challenges that I faced in doing this. As you can see, I'm still holding up this tiny little mic because it's easier. I'm not going to lie. It's easier. Like I can plug it into my phone. I can just hold it and it's just easier. I'm not giving up because I ran into so many audio technical issues and I decided that is a future me problem. Like I'm not going to ignore it. I'm going to invest in another better mic and I'm going to figure out this whole software thing, but I'm not quitting. Like when I ran into all of those technical issues, I wasn't in a place where I was like, this isn't for me. Now, if I wasn't doing this for the right things, if it wasn't truly in alignment with what I wanted or who I am, then maybe the audio issues would have put me on a different path. Maybe that would have been my sign to be like, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm not cut out for this. But I'm like, you know what? No, I love this. That's not going to stop me. I'm going to keep going because it's in alignment with who I am, what I want to accomplish, what my values are. Everything else is in alignment. This is just a challenge that I have to get through. But you might continue with something because you don't want to feel, like I said earlier, you don't want to feel like you wasted your time. You don't want to feel like you wasted your energy, your money, whatever it is. But I am going to tell you, you are going to waste so much more time and energy if you don't give up on that thing. Because if you finish it, let's say you finish it, or maybe let's say you continue on with it, that feeling is not going to go away. It's going to keep coming up again and again, as long as that thing is not in alignment with you. It's going to catch up with you eventually. Or maybe you don't want to quit because you want to have something to show for it. You don't want to feel like I just did nothing. I got nothing from it. But maybe you don't even really care about it. Maybe you want to have something to show for it for someone else, but you deep down don't truly care about it. Because if you did, you wouldn't even consider quitting in the first place. Let's say you go to school to become a lawyer and you think you're going to love it. Maybe you thought that being a lawyer was the way to go, that was going to be the most aligned path for you. So you go to school and let's say maybe you're 2 years in and you realize like, this is not for me. Like, I hate this. But you're like, I've already spent however many thousands of dollars. I've already spent 2 years of my life doing this. I've already acquired all of these credits to pursue this degree. But you're like, I hate it. You have no sense of joy. You have no sense of purpose. You don't want to do this anymore. You know deep down that this isn't the path for you, but maybe you just want to prove to yourself that you can finish it, or you just want to prove to your parents that you can finish it. So you keep pursuing it. And let's say you finish. Let's say you get your degree and you become a lawyer and now you hate it. And now you were worried about wasting those couple years of money or time but now you've wasted maybe 6 years of your money and of your time. Maybe now your student loan debt is through the roof and you're still not happy. But if you would have just listened to yourself years ago, you would have saved all those additional years of time and tuition. But you decided to just push through anyway, just to say that you had something to show for it, or just to prove to yourself or everyone else that you could finish it. But it didn't do what you thought it was going to do for you because deep down it wasn't aligned. Do you know how much time and money and energy I have wasted? And if you can't see me, if you're just listening to this, I'm doing air quotes because people use this term wasted as though they lost something. Now, I could sit here and say, do you know how much I've wasted over the years? I'll get into it in a little bit, but I've quit so many things that I have spent a lot of time, money, and energy on. But I don't consider them a waste because I learned something from every single one of those experiences. And now I look at them as life's tuition. That is the tuition that I paid to learn more about what I want out of life. And in each thing that I quit, there was a different lesson in it. And it redirected me into a different area. And it got me closer and closer to where I am now. So no, they weren't a waste. They're exactly what I needed to find who I am. And if you don't believe me, look it up. Highly successful people quit things all the time because they quit the wrong paths to get them closer to the right ones quicker. But like I said, you just have to know that something is not in alignment with you, that something is just not for you. You have to feel it in your gut, but you also have to trust yourself. You have to know deep down that whatever it is that you want is more than what you're settling for. And wherever you are is not going to get you there any quicker. There's a quote from Steve Jobs that I love, and it says, "The only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle." So what I'm hearing is keep quitting. Don't settle. When he says keep looking, it's like, well, in order to keep looking, you probably have to stop doing something that you know isn't for you and start doing something different. So that's what I'm hearing. Don't just keep quitting stuff. Keep quitting what is not meant for you. Oprah Winfrey was a news anchor, but she quit that because she knew it wasn't aligned with her passion. She knew she wanted more connection with people, and she loved like this art of storytelling, and she knew she couldn't do that being a news anchor. So that is the step that she needed to find her true purpose. If she would have ignored that feeling and just continued to be a news anchor, I highly doubt that she would be where she is today. I can relate so much. I quit so many things. You guys, I quit, gosh, even as a kid, ask my mom. I asked her, I'm like, I should have had her make a list of all the things that I quit. Because for a while, I thought there was something wrong with me. I have a list actually here. I'm going to look at this. So I was in ballet, karate, volleyball, Girl Scouts. I quit, and I know there was a few people that thought I was nuts. I quit a job of almost 9 years when my husband at the time was not working. This was like a year after the recession. So he lost his job when I was almost 9 months pregnant in 2008. That was a scary time. So he still wasn't working by the time I had our son and still wasn't working a year later. So we have a 1-year-old at home and I'm working this job and I was miserable. Did I overpronunciate that enough? Miserable. I don't even know if that has that many syllables, but I made it that way because that's how terrible it was. I dreaded, is that a word? I dreaded every day going into work. I don't wish that feeling on anyone. Nobody wants to feel that way. Probably mentioned that before because I am super passionate about that. If you have something that is just killing you inside, leave it alone. That is not good for you in any way, shape, or form. And I am not telling you to just quit a job when your husband is unemployed and you have a baby at home. Okay. I'm not saying that. I did it, but I know myself and I knew I would figure it out. I already had some side gigs lined up. I had somewhat of a safety net. I knew that I wasn't just going to be living on the street, but I knew that continuing that job was not going to be good for myself, for my mental health, and it wouldn't have been good for anyone else in my life either. If I would have just continued that, I would have probably been extremely angry or extremely depressed, and that would have just trickled through everything else in my life. So I was like, you know what? I'm done. I will figure it out. But I remember when I was considering doing this, people would be like, oh my God, why would you do that? Your husband isn't working and you have a new baby at home. Like, you're nuts. And then after I did it, people were like, holy shit, you actually did it? Are you insane? And I'm like, no, I can't. I refuse to live life in misery. I don't think anyone should do that. So if you have something that is eating you alive, I'm telling you now, start planning, start thinking about what else it is that you can do. Not saying just quit, but I'm saying maybe it's time to plan an exit. But even after my childhood, after I quit that job, I have just been on this hunt for my calling, what seems like my whole life. I went to school for psychology. I kept thinking that I had to go back to school to find my calling because that's what society has kind of programmed us with, that if you go to school for something, that's the way to success. So I always thought that that was going to be my answer. And I've always been a good student. So I always thought it was just going back to school for something different. So I went to school for psychology, for radiology, for interior design. I started to work on getting my realtor license. I got into early childcare. I started real estate investing. I think you heard my story already on that. I even tried to become a social media influencer, which I'm not sure if that episode is out yet, but yeah, if you go to my Instagram, if you go to my personal Instagram, I left those videos up because they're funny, but they're also slightly embarrassing. But I want people to see, like, I tried so many things and I'm not embarrassed about that. I was a professional quitter. Like, how could I be such a good student, graduate high school at 16 years old, but I can't continue anything else? Like, I can't stick with anything. I started to think, is it because I'm a Libra? I'm like, well, I know Libras are air signs and air signs are really good at starting things, but not always finishing them. So I'm like, is this my destiny? Am I just like not cut out to finish anything that I start? And I know my dad would make jokes kind of like, oh, how's, whatever she's started, how's that going now? Or how's the real estate thing going? Or how's the whatever the new thing that I was starting, he would kind of like make little side comments to my mom. And thanks, Mom, for always believing in me. Because she was always like, no, she knows what's best for her and she wants to try this new thing and that we should support her. And she was always what I want to be to you. I'm your quitting cheerleader. She was always my quitting cheerleader. So thanks, Mom. But you know what I realized now? It took a long time, but I've realized now that while I quit so many things, I never gave up on pursuing a destiny that was meant for me. I never once just gave in to society's expectation of punching a clock every day. And I'm not saying I don't punch a clock every day, but I know now deep down in my bones that that is not all I am meant for. I was put on this earth to spread these messages, to help inspire you and anyone that's willing to listen, that you are made for so much more than that. And another thing I learned through quitting all of these things is that I never stopped learning. I never gave up on learning. I wasn't going to ignore this feeling anymore. And I was going to find my purpose or die trying, right? So for the last 4 years, I've been all in on this. I've been in so many different courses to learn, to expand my mind, to understand myself better. I've read dozens of books. I've listened to probably hundreds of podcasts at this point. I jump down daily rabbit hole because I'm just like this naturally curious person. I would call myself a student of life because I was always taking in information, and I still continue to take in information. But I would always joke about like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, even though I'm grown up. But I never gave up on that. I never gave up on learning. I never gave up on searching. And still to this day, even though I've finally found it, I don't ever stop learning. I never stop growing. I'm not going to quit this path. And what I've realized through all this is while I have quit many paths, I never gave up on the destination. And I realized people don't quit what they love. They quit what isn't for them. Because if you love something, even when it gets hard, you're still going to push through. So I am here to remind you that quitting is not a weakness. It is not a flaw. There's nothing wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you didn't care enough. It doesn't mean that you weren't strong enough. It doesn't mean any of those things. What I believe quitting actually means is that you are strong enough and you care enough to focus on what is actually true for you. Because it can take a lot of courage to quit something. Like when you know that you're going to get judged for quitting something, or you know that you're not going to feel the greatest about yourself after quitting something, or maybe you're taking a risk by quitting something, that is not for everyone. A lot of people just want to play it safe. So to quit something means that you have to trust yourself enough and be strong enough to know that this isn't for you. And I don't want you to confuse quitting with failure. These are two different things. To me, you only fail if you keep pursuing a path that's not meant for you, or you quit something that you actually love. That is when you fail. So if you're doing something that you absolutely love and it gets hard and then you quit, okay, well now you failed because you just gave up, even though you know you love it. It's like my husband with his music. He's been doing music for 20 years. He never gave up on that. Why would he give up on that? He loves it. It brings him joy. It brings him a sense of peace. It makes him feel good about himself. But you shouldn't pursue something that you really don't love, or maybe you don't care enough about it. Maybe it conflicts with your values. But usually when you're considering quitting something or you don't want to follow through with something, it's because something feels off. I love talking about how you can improve your life, how to achieve your goals, how to go after your purpose. I'm like completely obsessed with this stuff. But the tech side of things can be complicated. Even just like getting on video and like talking on a camera, like I'm looking at myself right now, you guys. This is so weird. I'm staring at myself talking into a camera with an empty room. That's not easy, to me at least. It's not easy. Maybe it'll get easier eventually. But I know that what I'm doing has value and I want to help other people so badly. Like that is my why behind why I'm doing this. And that's bigger than any challenge that I'm going to face. So, what is your why? Whatever it is that you're doing, do you have a deeper why behind why you're doing it? Not only do you need a really strong why, but it should also be fun. It should be challenging and it should be rewarding. You know, when you have this balance of those key ingredients, the chances of you quitting are going to be very, very slim. So everything that I was attempting, none of them had fun, challenging, rewarding, and like this really deeper why. They might have had one of the ingredients or two of them, but it didn't have all of them. And now I'm realizing when you can combine all of those things, you are going to be unstoppable. Your goal is to be in full alignment with who you are and what you want to do. So it's that ultimate vacation destination. I'm saying don't cancel the trip, but you may just have to rearrange your plans to get there. And you may have to quit certain paths along the way to make sure that you actually arrive at that destination. And think about all the things that you have in your life that you know you would never quit on. My son, for example, I know he wouldn't quit basketball just because he had a really bad game or just because he had a really tough practice, because that's going to happen. Or if you play baseball, if you struck out one game, are you like, I'm done? I'm over this. I'm not doing this ever again. You're not going to quit things that you are obsessed with, that you love. You're not going to quit your family because you got in a fight. You're not going to get rid of your dog because he pooped on the floor. Maybe. I hope not. Please don't. But you're not going to quit things that matter to you. But when you do quit things that aren't meant for you, it helps you get experience on what you do and you don't like about something. When I quit trying to pursue the whole social media influencer thing, I realized like it was fun. Don't get me wrong. It was fun, coming up with different video concepts and recording and editing. Like I like all that stuff. But I realized like what is the goal here? What am I actually trying to do? I felt like there was no meaning in it. There was no purpose. And I'm like, that was an alignment with who I was. There's tons of people out here that are social media influencers, and that probably brings them so much joy. It just wasn't for me. When I quit the real estate tax investing, you guys, I spent thousands of dollars on a coach. I spent months, probably even close to a year on that course. And I realized over time that was not my definition of what I thought success would look like. Like I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I thought that I was just doing it to work for myself and for money. But it wasn't fun and it didn't give me a sense of purpose. So again, I was like missing those ingredients, right? I almost felt like a Goldilocks looking for the right fit. Like, oh, this bed is too hard. This bed is too soft. This porridge is too hot. This porridge is too cold. I couldn't find the perfect fit for me, but that's why you need to quit so many things, because you have to experiment. You're not going to know unless you try a bunch of stuff. And when you quit, it moves you away from what you don't want so much quicker. And then it pushes you towards the next thing. And throughout the whole process, it's redirecting you. So as I kept trying things, I learned, okay, the real estate tax investing, I realized that was boring me to my core. Okay, now I know I need to do something fun. So then I think it was actually right after that I went to the social media influencer. So now I'm going from something that's completely boring to something super fun, but also now meaningless. So then after the social media influencer, I went to helping my husband with his music. And that was all of them. It was fun, it was challenging, and it gave me meaning. And I'm like, oh my God. And then once I had that whole recipe down, now I'm like, I could do this for more people. I've done it for my family. I've helped my husband with his music. I've helped my sons get their business off the ground. I've helped my oldest get his mental health group off the ground. I became obsessed with helping people fulfill their mission and find their purpose. And that led me here. But it took years of experimenting, years of quitting to figure that out. So you're not behind. There's nothing wrong. You're on the right path. Just keep trying. And then when you quit something, or when you stop pursuing something, you're clearing the space for whatever is meant for you to come in. Because as long as you're spending all of your time and your energy on whatever it is that isn't meant for you, you're not going to have the capacity to bring something else in that is in better alignment. So if I were to continue to focus on the real estate tax investing, let's say I continued that even though I knew it was in alignment with me, I'm blocking what is, because I'm spending all of my time and energy and resources on something that isn't. So how am I going to have any time to work on something that is meant for me? Like, you have to get rid of that to allow something else to come in. If you just stick with this one thing and you're just like fixated on it, you're not going to have a chance to really experiment and learn all of the things that you like and the things that you don't like and the things you want more of and the things you want less of. But the key is knowing when to quit. And this can be really tricky. This is going to be something very, very personal to you. I'm not giving you like a strict black or white instruction manual of this is when it is time to quit. Only you are going to truly know that. And I want to emphasize that it's a feeling. You might be conflicted in your head, but what I have experienced is it is in your body. It's like how you feel about something. Even when it might seem like logically it's not the best thing to do, like for me, quitting a job with an unemployed husband and a 1-year-old baby at home, On paper, that would be a really dumb decision, right? Most people would think that that was crazy. But I just had this knowing that that is what I had to do. And it all worked out. So you have to know some of the signs that I felt, and because I've quit so many things, I have a lot of experience in this area, is you're not excited about whatever it is. So the real estate tax investing, it was like, it felt like work. It's like, I literally just created another job for myself. Like, what was the point of this? Or you just don't love it. Like I got to a point with like the whole social media videos, like I don't really love doing it anymore. It kind of it felt like a job. Some of them were fun, but then it started to feel like work. It started to feel like, I got to come up with another concept and I got to find matching audio. It just became hard, which leads me to the next one, which it started to feel forced. That's a big one. Anytime something feels forced or you have like this obligation to it, that's usually a sign. If something is meant for you, oftentimes you're going to feel excited about it. Or even if you're not excited about it, but there are times where I will just catch myself planning episodes without even intentionally doing it. Maybe I'm in my room and I'm like folding laundry or something. And if my laptop is up, I will catch myself just like walking over and I'll just sit down and I'll just start typing. Like I'll just have an idea or a thought and I just get going. And I wasn't even planning on doing it. But because I love it so much and I'm so passionate about it, I don't even have to tell myself, okay, tonight you're going to sit down and you're going to plan another episode. I literally never do that. The only time I have to schedule is to actually record because I need somewhat of a quiet house and I have to know that my family isn't going to need me for a couple hours so that I just have no distractions. But when it comes to like episodes or ideas, that all just like flows through me. I love researching all of this stuff. I love reading. I love learning new concepts. And I love being able to share it with people who maybe are complete beginners and they've never been exposed to this type of content before. And I want to make it as easy to digest as possible because I'm just like a normal person. I'm a mom, a wife. I have a full-time job. I've got 2 kids. I've got a husband. I do chores. I grew up in the Midwest. I don't come from like a super spiritual background. I don't come from parents who were like really into self-development work or a family that was really into this stuff. I just want people to know that no matter what type of upbringing you had or the type of family that you come from, these are all things that you can apply to your life. I didn't have any of this as a child. I'm learning it all on my own. So that's why I want people to know that you can do all of these things because I can. If I can, you can. Okay, I got off on a little bit of a tangent there. So signs that it's time to quit. So not being excited, you don't love whatever it is, maybe you're dreading it, you're feeling forced, you feel obligated to do it. It's just sucking the life out of you. And maybe as a result of that, it's starting to impact your physical or your mental health. Maybe you're stressed, maybe you're not sleeping, maybe it's starting to impact the way you interact with your family, it's starting to impact your relationships. So if you have a job that is just draining your soul and you feel no sense of purpose whatsoever, you don't feel like you're valued, you don't feel like you're providing value, maybe that's a sign. Or maybe it is not aligned with your values. So are you doing it just for money? Just for recognition? Again, what is your why? What is that deeper why of why you're actually pursuing this thing? Maybe you're doing it for someone else. Think about it. Like if they weren't a factor, would you still pursue it? Maybe it is a lack of growth or a lack of purpose, or it's not bringing you any kind of fulfillment. Maybe you are facing a ton of roadblocks. Now, be careful with this one because I've experienced roadblocks, but it didn't necessarily mean I needed to quit. Maybe it's not changing, again, the destination, but maybe you just change your approach. It could just be the universe testing you to see, is this truly what you want? Are you willing to overcome these obstacles in pursuit of this? Okay, if you're willing to, then no, that's probably not a sign to quit. Maybe your circumstances have changed. My son, he got injured. Obviously, he can't continue with basketball. His circumstances have changed. So instead, he started to focus more on his mental health group and his business. He's not necessarily quitting basketball, but he's not putting all of his time and energy into it right now because that's not where his focus should be if he's injured. Or maybe your priorities have shifted. That is a big one. That is when I quit many of my things, is when I realized my priority isn't just to earn money off of this thing, or my priority isn't to just have fun with this thing. It was about something bigger. Then I started to quit those things that weren't in alignment with my values. If there's one thing I want you to take from this episode, it's this. Quitting something doesn't make you a quitter. You don't have this new identity as a quitter just because you quit this one thing. Even if you quit multiple things, it doesn't make you a quitter. It means you learned something about yourself. Every path you took, even the ones that you didn't stay on, gave you some sense of clarity. So don't think of yourself as inconsistent. Think of yourself like you're refining. Your goal shouldn't be to just stick with something just to prove that you can. The goal is to build a life that you feel is truly yours. So as I've mentioned many, many times, if something no longer fits, if it's draining you, if it's numbing you, or if it's pulling you away from who you are truly meant to be, you don't need permission to let it go. You don't need my permission. You don't need someone else's permission. You know deep down it's not meant for you, then leave it alone. And quitting the wrong paths will always help you stay focused on the right one. So this week, I want you to ask yourself these questions. Does this energize me or does it drain me? Am I doing this because I love it or because I'm just afraid of quitting? If no one else had any kind of opinion, would I still choose this? And then look back at some of the things that you've already quit. What did quitting that thing teach me? What did I learn about that I don't want? And how did it actually redirect me? So I hope this helped. I want you to know that you're not on the wrong path. You're exactly where you need to be. So if this resonated with you, if this is what you needed to hear, let me know what you took away from this, because I don't know many people that have quit as many things that I have. So if you're a professional quitter or a successful quitter like me, hit me up. Leave me a comment. Send me a DM. Tell me what you thought. I want to know that I'm not alone. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll see you on the next episode.
It's so bright.